First, going into Photoshop for the first time, there's a few settings that you need to make sure that are correct. So when you're in Photoshop, one of the first things you want to do is have all of your settings. So you go to Photoshop up here in the corner, you click on Preferences, and you go to General. So the first thing you want to make sure is under General, you want to make sure this is unchecked. So most of your computers will probably have this item checked, and I'll explain it in future lectures why it needs to be turned off. But you want to make sure you turn off Always Create Smart Objects when placing. So that's the first thing. The next thing you want to do is you want to go down to Units and Rulers. Now we work in inches. We don't want to use pixels because pixels is used for the internet, and there will be times where we do switch over, but for this particular assignment, we want to make sure it is inches. Also, we can go under New Document Preset Resolution. We like to use 150 dpi or dots per inch. Anything over that is really a bit of overkill because we're just putting everything in Schoology and onto our websites. So 300 dpi would be print quality. So we just want to make sure we have the ruler set to inches and the print resolution set to 150. So we hit OK. So that's the first thing. The next thing we want to do, for example, let's open up a document. We'll just make a new blank document. And whenever we're creating, for the most part in Photoshop, for at least for the first few assignments, unless you're told otherwise, so we usually click on Print. So we use two sizes in our program because our printer uses two sizes. And this is just for printing. We do letter size and tabloid. So for this fruit bowl assignment, for example, we would click on Letter. And as you can see, you would want to give this a name. For example, Fruit Bowl. And then you have these presets, and as you can see, 8.5 by 11, 150 is correct. Okay? So moving on. Now, the first thing you want to make sure you have turned on is your rulers. Now, as you can see, I always have mine turned on, but for example, if they're off, you're going to need to make sure they're turned on so we can check and make sure the measurement size is proper. So we go to View, and then we go down to Rulers. And as you can see, your rulers are up here. And why is that important? Because now you can start to use what are called guidelines. As you can see, you would go into the ruler area, in this gray area, as you can see. You click and you drag over, and you have these imaginary rulers. I'm sorry, guidelines. So they're imaginary. You can see them, but they won't print, and they won't upload to the internet. It's just more for your reference. And then you can always clear those out. So the first thing you want to do is have the rulers turned on. So for now, the next thing you would want to move on to is Window, and we all use what's called a workspace. Now the default to Photoshop is called Essentials. Now for example, as you can see here, you can see what windows I have open, all the control panels for my tools. So anything that is checked is what you can see right now. So if I were to click on History, you'll see it pop up over here. Now let's say I start to move all these different windows all over the place, and I have a lot of clutter going on, and I just want to go back to the way things were in the beginning. It's pretty easy. You would just go back to Window, Workspace, and then you would hit Reset, and it all goes back to the way it was. Okay? So for the next thing you would want to do also is when you're using the Move tool, so this is, I know we're jumping around a bit here, but these are settings you want to have for the rest of the year. The next thing you would want to do is click on the Move tool, and you want to make really, really sure that Show Transform Controls is turned on. And why is that? So for example, if I draw a square, you'll see the transform controls are turned on. So I can move this square any size I want. Okay, for example, let's put some color behind it so you can see what I'm talking about. Do that. And now I'm going to resize that. And now you can see, now if I have that turned off, for example, I turned off transform controls, I have no way of clicking on any of the points to resize it. So you always want to make sure that is on also. Okay, so that's really it for now on your basic Adobe Photoshop settings. Now you'll also see after the first time when you go to save something, it might say save to the cloud or save to your computer. you always want to save to your computer. And if possible, if you ever see a window that says don't show again, you would want to make sure that you click on that because you really only want to see it once. So that's it for now. If you ever have any questions, please let me know.